Hello, everybody. How you doing today? This is Sakoni Prince of SakoniPrince.com, where we make motivation personal. We're introducing you to yourself. And I want to welcome you to the H.E.A.L podcast. H.E.A.L is an acronym for Help, Elevate, and Learn, and it's based on my latest book with the same title. The subtitle is It's a Guide to Healing Your Inner Child. I wrote this book because I know that there are a lot of people that are going through life that are dealing with trauma that was seeded in their childhood. But they don't really recognize it as that because it shows up in their current day behavior. And you know what? Writing this book has really helped me to understand the importance for us to be able to take a step back and just really look at ourselves and see, is there anything that I'm doing today that's a direct result of what happened in my childhood? And you know what? It's been nothing but a freeing experience for those who take the journey. And so I encourage you to do the same. But listen, before we hop into this podcast, because I can't wait for you to meet our guest today, I do have to tell you about our sponsor, none other than BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceHeal. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable, it is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/SakoniPrinceHeal or choose SakoniPrinceHeal during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. And again, we want to thank our sponsor, BetterHelp, who has been instrumental in us getting this message out and getting the word out. So with that being said, I want to bring up our guest for today, none other than Nicole Bozeman. Nicole, are you there?
Hi guys. Hello. How are
Hello,
you?
hello. So listen, tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is you do.
Yeah. So my name is Nicole Bozeman. I am the CEO of Crystals, Diamonds, and Pearls, LLC. It is truly a safe space of healing and wellness. I am the founder. I am a mastery level certified life, health, and wellness coach. And I'm all about sharing the message of healing the inner child, especially and specifically. So I'm really excited about having this conversation today.
We are so excited to have you and so honored that you took time out of your busy schedule to be here. So listen, we have a couple of questions, and I know you already had a chance to look at them, but I really can't wait to get your take on them. So we're going to start with our very first one.
Yeah.
And the first one is, in your professional opinion, how important is inner child healing?
It is a matter of life and death.
Okay.
If we don't heal that inner child, we are constantly experience grieving and death. And it's not until we do heal that inner child that we really can begin to live. So it's so important.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. I encourage individuals to again take that plunge into that healing pool. Because without that, again, there's so much of life that we forfeit and so many experiences that we don't have simply because we are afraid. Like I was sharing with you earlier, my one of my quotes was that the bravest thing we can do is heal from our hurt. Because it is scary. It is scary.
It's very scary because it's unfamiliar. Because if all you have known is a form of trauma and pain, then feeling healed and standing in that space and experiencing the wholeness of healing is unfamiliar and it's uncomfortable, which is why so many of us struggle to do it, because we don't know that we will be successful in it.
Right. And it's sad to say, but some people get addicted to drama and trauma.
Yes. Oh, listen, sir. Ding,
I was
ding,
talking
ding.
I was talking to somebody, and they were telling me about this coworker of theirs and everything that they were dealing with. And I said, what you call crazy, they call Tuesday.
Yeah.
They said,
Yeah.
well, let me tell you about Wednesday. You're like, wait a minute. All that happened on Tuesday, and you got more stuff, but they become addicted to that. And so,
Yeah.
we have to be willing and able to actually look at ourselves and see, is my behavior serving me,
Mm-hmm.
or am I just addicted to this type of, you know, lifestyle? And even that can even include trauma, because as we start to heal, you're right, it is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So,
And you know what's so interesting that you said being addicted to the drama and the trauma? It is so, 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 so very true. It's almost intoxicating. It's I
mm,
need to have this traumatic moment, though I want this healing thing that everybody talks about. I want the love. I want the peace.
mm,
But when I get it, it feels so uncomfortable because it's so unfamiliar, and I don't
right,
feel like I can be successful in this thing you call healing. That I'd rather throw in a bunch of trauma and drama. You know why? Because I know how to deal with that. I know how to survive that.
right,
I can
right.
survive the trauma and the drama. So I'll keep it going. I'll keep that cycle going, saying I merry-go-round because I know how to handle it.
Yeah, yep. It becomes so familiar, and anything
Whew,
unfamiliar is scary, even
right?
being healed.
Right?
Wow.
Isn't that interesting right there? Like,
Yeah.
just you can pause on that thought alone. It's like, but isn't that the thing that you say you want and you talk about and you get mad that you say you don't have, but then when you try to get it or somebody tries to give it to you, you get mad at them because they gave it to you, then you call it a trauma situation, then you want to gaslight them, and then you want to be mad. Like, huh? It's like, so I have to fight you to love you and to give you
Mm.
what you asked for. I got to fight you to give it to you. And then you're mad at me because I'm fighting you to give you something that you asked for.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That part.
As a friend of mine, say that part. Yeah, that
That
part
part.
right there. All right. Our second question is: in your personal or professional opinion, when should someone start inner child work?
Oh God, I thought about this question a lot. And the best thing I can say is when you're tired of hearing the voices in your head.
Mm.
When you're
Ooh.
ready to really just start making them shut up and really get quiet, those voices in your head, which are your childhood trauma crying out to you in these different scenes and scenarios, that's
Mm-hmm.
when you're ready to do the work, when you're ready to silence those voices.
Wow. Wow. That is so, so true.
Yeah.
Um, you said a mouthful then, because again, we're so familiar with them because they've
Mm-hmm.
been there for most of our life, and they've
Absolutely.
been our constant companion.
Yep.
And so it's like, but then it's like what do you replace them with? And what you replace them with is that healed inner child. You know, uh, yeah. So true. Okay, our next question is: how does trauma show up in life and relationships?
Ooh, oh Lord. Okay, so this is a whole other podcast in and of itself. That question right there. But for the
I
most
know.
part, it shows up in when it sounds like this. I always, every single time. See, this
Mm,
is what I mean. You never. It's always been like that. That's just what it used to. It's just how it is. That's how
mm,
it sounds. You're hearing the child in them crying out saying, this is what I've always been doing. I'm tired of doing this. I don't want to do this no more. This is the only thing I experienced. Can you tell me something else different? Can you give me a different experience? I don't know anything else. And the adult person is trying to interpret what that child is saying,
mm-hmm.
and it can't because it's we're in trauma. So what you're hearing is the trauma coming out of them, but that's how it sounds in our adult space. We're always blaming, we're always pointing our finger, we're always saying, because they did. We always, every single time. This is what I'm talking about.
Right.
It's
Wow. Wow.
connected to the past.
Yeah. 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 And that's wow. That is a unique perspective on that question, because you gave examples of, like, just wording as
Yeah.
used to help identify things that are affecting and impacting people in relationships. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, so I saw this post, and when I saw the post, I was like, "Oh my God, I cannot wait to do this podcast." I'm gonna share this post right here. This is what it said. It said, "Your first trauma bond relationship, no, your first trauma bond experience is not with your partner. Your first trauma bond experience is with your parents."
Mm, okay.
Which means you're experiencing trauma in your youth with your parents. That's your first trauma bond relationship and experience.
Right. And that's I can attest to that 1,000%.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me
Yeah.
too. Me too. And when I read that, that hit me. That hit hard because I was like, it landed very heavy, but it was so surreal and it was so for real. It gave me an aha moment. I was like, wow, that's very true, which now explains why so many are afraid to go on the journey of healing their inner child. Because I got to deal
Right.
with the first relationship I had the trauma bond with my
Yep.
parents.
Yep. Yep. And again, the uneasiness of doing that, the
Yeah,
the
yeah,
the unfamiliarity of it
yeah.
is what frightens so many people. Especially, in fact, when it starts to get uncomfortable. And
Mm-hmm.
this really brings us to our next question, which is, what do you believe is the biggest obstacle to inner child healing?
And that's the biggest obstacle was that post. It's because when you're dealing with a child, you're dealing with those that were influential in that child's life. So now we're
Right.
talking about family and
Right.
friends.
Right. Right.
Family first,
Right.
and then our friends. So
Right.
now we get into this adult space and we struggle going back, dealing and trying to heal our inner child. Because now I got to go back to those that are labeled with labels that does not equate with trauma, or shouldn't. I should not say family and it equals trauma.
Right. Right.
So when
You
I
should.
do, and I have to say that, it makes me not want to deal with and start healing myself, because now I got to go back and deal with Aunt Sally, Uncle
Right.
Lou,
Right.
Mama, Grandma,
Right.
Grandma and
Right.
them, right?
Right. Right.
I got to deal with all of them now.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
pastor, the first lady, the prophet, the bishop. I got to deal with those individuals that had these titles that created this relationship and this connection with me that's now being equated with a trauma.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. So really, we are literally connecting the dots, because the next question is: do you believe that people can do inner child therapy alone?
No, no.
Right. Right.
Now, let me say this. Let me say this. For the most part, no. Can it be done alone? Yes. How do I know? Because I did it. I did it in alone, understanding my inner child, but I did it, one, because I wanted to, and because I was in a safe space to do it.
Gotcha.
So when
Gotcha.
I got into that safe space, then you'll feel okay in doing the work. Now you're always going to need somebody to just kind of help you and guide you through. It's
Navigate
always
through that.
important to have that support system, for sure. You got to have it, that navigating through. But to do that work, yes, when you feel safe, you do the work.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and a lot of the guests on my show, a lot of them will say that they may start it alone, but if it's too heavy and if it's too much, they definitely need to get help.
Oh yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
have to, you're never alone. You're always going to be there. You know, somebody say, just give it to the Lord. Just give it to the Lord. But like, time out. I've done that. I need somebody tangible that I can pick up the phone and be like, okay, I'm about ready to crack, snap, and pop in about 30 seconds if you don't help me.
Not a
Right?
bowl of not a bowl of cereal.
You know, we go Rice Krispie this thing right now. Just
Okay, okay,
because I need help, right? I don't know which one
right.
I'm going to come up to show up in, but I need that assistance, and it really is important, and it's okay. You know,
Yes,
you do have individuals like yourself, like myself, who are creating these platforms in a safe space so that you really can begin that healing journey.
that's true. That's true. And I did share this at the beginning, but this is my motto, even for my podcast. Is we're not here to start the I mean, we're not here to end the conversation. We're here to start it. We
Yes,
just want to make it okay
exactly.
and commonplace for us to talk about these things because,
Right?
especially in our community, a lot of stuff haven't been addressed. And if you go to my page, seconiprince.com/heal, and look at all of the guests I've had on my podcast, most of them have been women. I actually have had several men on here, in fact, which have been amazing. But I'm trying to make that the norm to where, especially us as African American men, can talk about things like this to actually make it commonplace to where there's not a stigma around it. A lot of people talk about mental illness, but I'm talking about mental health, just like physical illness and
Right,
physical health. You want to
right,
stay physically healthy. Well, let's stay mentally
right.
healthy. And that means that there's a regimen you have to do, the things you have to do, just like with your body, eat
Yes,
right, exercise.
yes,
Mentally, it's the same thing. So just having these conversations to me is
yeah,
critical for
yeah.
the health and wellness of our community.
Yeah, and let me share this with you. I said something. I did a taught a class one time, and I talked about this. And I said there were three things that we were taught growing up that caused us to be in this space that we're in today. And one of the main ones were what goes in this house stays in this house.
Yep.
Right? Growing up,
Right.
we were told that it was ingrained in us. And then the other one that ingrained with us is, you know, little kids, you stay out of grown folks' conversations and you're seen and not heard. When
Right.
you told us that, right? Especially what goes on in this house, stay, you don't go. Guess what you told me not to do?
Not to talk.
Ding, ding,
Not to
ding, ding,
share.
ding. So
Yeah.
now that I'm in this space where all of this trauma is taking place, I'm having all of these thoughts, and the voices in my head are talking crazy to me, and I don't know what to do. And so, as my African American brothers, they were told, "Don't you say nothing because you were right. Don't you cry. Buck up. You ain't out to
Right.
cry. You be
Right.
tough, man. Men don't cry. So guess what? You don't show emotion."
Right. Exactly.
So now when we talk about this journey of healing and wellness, guess what you're not going to do?
Yeah.
Because you were told for years, for decades,
Mandated.
years, you was mandated not to do
Yeah.
it. And so
Yeah.
now and that was in your childhood,
Yep.
right? And so
That's
now
true.
you're in your adult space, and guess what you don't know how to do?
Don't know how to open up. You don't know how to share. You don't know
You
how to be
don't.
vulnerable.
You don't
Right.
know how to be vulnerable because you were told you were not allowed to do it.
That's true. That's true. So finding that safe space is critical.
Yes, it
And
is.
I love the fact that you have, even on your Instagram handle, safe space influencer,
Yes.
which is amazing. That's so amazing. All right. So our next question is, how can someone help others who are struggling to identify the need for inner child work?
You know, here's the thing. I can't help you find it. It's not
Okay.
something that anybody can help you find. It has to be the desire of your heart. And when you get
Right.
to that space when you know, we always talk about when you just get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Chicken. Right.
When you get really tired of those voices, when it gets to a space where it's like, you know what, I can't keep doing this. Like I'm
Mm.
done. And I got to that point. I got to that point where I was so done. I was emotionally drained. I was mentally exhausted. I was physically exhausted. You can see the manifestation physically in my life. You
Right.
know, there was so much that was happening that I had to finally to say, wait a minute. First of all, I'm getting ready to come into my 6th decade of life.
Mm.
I'm going to turn 60. There is
Okay.
no way I'm going to step into my 6th decade of life dealing with this. Like, I'm tired. I don't want to
Yeah.
keep doing this.
Right.
I'm over it. I'm done trying to please you. I'm over that. You know what I'm saying? And so
Mm.
we, in our adult space, when we get tired, like, I'm too grown to be dealing with this stuff. Like,
Right.
let's heal.
Yeah. 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 That's so true.
Right? I'm
So,
going to 50s, still dealing with the same thing that I was dealing with in my teens and my 20s. Does that even sound right?
yeah.
Does that?
And I know that there has to be some, you have to be intentional about that. It doesn't just happen,
Yes.
but
Right.
you have to make it a priority
You
in
do.
order for it to actually happen.
You do. You do.
So, last question here. How can people start the conversation about inner child trauma?
I remember one time when I had my inner child traumatic experience. It's being willing to be vulnerable. It's
Mm.
willing to share and say, I get it. I've been there. Here's my experience. Can I be vulnerable before you? This is what I say. Can I heal out loud?
Ooh.
And
Ooh,
when
I
I heal
like
out
that.
loud, I'm going to share with you what happened. You know, I can tell you about when I was 5 years old. My grade school teacher put tape over my mouth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Wow.
that whole traumatic experience. But we have to, in order, I think that if you have those of us that are willing to say, listen, I've been there, did that, this is what happened to me, and not come across like you're just holier than thou and you've had nothing wrong and you just got it all right. No, show that vulnerability.
Mm. Healing
Yeah.
out loud. I love that.
Yelling
I
out
love
loud.
that. Healing
Mm-hmm.
out loud. I think that's something that we all need to do because, so
Mm-hmm.
many of us, we try to heal in silence, but that's what the trauma is.
Okay. That's that's the truth, right? That isn't that interesting that you try to heal in the same place that you experienced the trauma.
Yeah, that's not going to work. So yeah, it has to come out. I tell
Yes.
people all the time, we all need somebody to throw up on, and because when our body is sick, we try to get it out, before the healing starts, and even mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah.
When we're spiritually sick, mentally sick, emotionally sick, we need somebody that we can talk to, and God gave us each other. So,
Yeah.
it's finding those individuals, that we know and trust, and that are a safe space for us,
Yes.
for
Yes.
us to do that.
Yes.
Uh, I really hate when we are just labeled as these superhuman individuals and we can't be vulnerable, we can't have our feelings hurt, we can't, show up in our authentic self,
Oh
and you
my.
wonder why so many people are hurting.
That's right. Which
you
is
know
why so many people in leadership, in particular type of leadership, and we won't go down that rabbit hole, are really hurting because of that very reason.
you
I put this title in front of my name, and then
mm,
you remove my humanity away from me. And you tell me I don't have the right, the permission,
mm,
or the authority to hurt or to struggle or to have a moment when my vessel is empty and I need to be refilled. How dare I? And you're
yeah,
absolutely correct. And that's not fair. It took me being in that space for over 10 years and seeing
mm,
it firsthand and
yeah,
experiencing it myself, being told, how dare I? I'm like, yo, I'm broken. You don't know what's been going on in my house. Like,
right,
but
right,
I can't show that. I can't be vulnerable. I can't heal out loud because then you're going to tell me that I don't have any authority and, oh, you just like everybody else. Yeah, this calling being human.
right,
Just
right,
saying. As I
yeah,
remove those titles off my name.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
What? That is so true. In fact, we have to make sure that we allow ourselves that space, and not just ourselves, but for those we care about.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So
Yeah.
listen, in fact, before we get out of here, we have to hear from our sponsor again, and that's none other than our good friends at BetterHelp. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/SaconiPrinceHeal. You answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who's had years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. You can do it all from your phone or your computer, via a phone call, a video chat, or messaging. However you feel most comfortable, it is the easiest possible way to start talking to a therapist. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours, so you can get started fast. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you, all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/SaconiPrinceHeal or choose Saconi Prince Heal during your sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. And again, we want to thank our sponsor, BetterHelp, for being a sponsor of this amazing episode. And we want to thank our guest, none other than Nicole Bozeman.
Hey.
So, Nicole,
now.
we can still see you. It happens. So before we get out of here, why don't you tell the people how they can contact you, how they can connect with you and follow you?
Yeah. Hey, the best way to contact me is through email at glowup@crystaldiamondspearls.com. That's all one word, crystal, no S, diamonds with the S, pearls with the S.com. And you can follow me on all the socials. I'm on Instagram, Facebook at Crystals, Diamonds, and Pearls, or Nicole Bozeman. And I'm also on TikTok at Safe Space Influencer. So I'm excited. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for the dialogue. It is so needed.
You are so welcome. And again, like I tell all of the people that have been on my show, I honor you because I know that it takes a lot to do your own work, but then it also takes a special person to help somebody else navigate, through their own, trauma, their own healing journey. And so, in my book, that's what a real hero is. So I want to thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. And it's my pleasure. It's my honor to be able to do that, because I know what it's like to have to go through that journey alone. And I don't ever want anybody to have to feel like they're not safe to heal.
Right. That's so true. So are there any parting words that you have for our listeners?
Yeah, my parting word for you is it is okay to be okay. So let's live.
Let's live. That's right. And let's heal out loud.
Let's heal out loud.
All right. Once again, this is Saconi Prince of SaconiPrince.com, where we make motivation personal by introducing you to yourself. And I've started to end my show. For those of you who don't know, I also do personal development and leadership development. And so here is my sizzle reel. But until next time, we'll see you later. Well, my name is Saconi Prince of SaconiPrince.com, where we make motivation personal by introducing you to yourself. I'm a motivational speaker, a trainer, and a coach. I'm also an author. I help people in the area of personal development and leadership development because I believe that you can't lead others until you learn how to lead yourself. But once you learn how to lead yourself, the next logical step is that you lead other people.
Saconi Prince is the best keynote I've ever seen.
He really encouraged me so much.
He has this ability of seeing in people what they don't see in themselves.
He was so confident. When he was coming to the stage, you could see like, wow, this is a lion.
Any actor that's going for a role, they do a case study. If I'm going to be a fry cook, I go to a restaurant and watch people that are fry cooks. If I'm going to be a mob boss, I go and, well, maybe not go to where the mob, but you take some notes as to what they do. Our children are watching. What can they reference when they step into our shoes? I do what I do because I believe that people have truly yet to understand their purpose. Once you know who you are, nothing can stop you. But until you know who you are, anything can. So my goal is to really help people to understand their purpose and their calling. And oftentimes they have the answers themselves, but they're not asking the right questions. So I help people to get to that place to where they look at themselves, they step back and they see how they've been a help to those around them and what really drives them. And from that, they really understand the value of it. They learn to value their value and see what value their value brings. Because a lot of people, they have yet to do that. Until you know who you are, anything can stop you. But once you know who you are, nothing can stop you. I want you to understand that you are blessed. That you are blessed to be a blessing. That there is somebody looking up to you. They're looking at you. Don't ever forget that. Because if you ever do, you're going to leave them without a mind.
I've learned so much and I've experienced a lot of interactions with people.
The practical approach, like you can't just sit down there, you have to walk up to an opportunity. Sometimes you have to grab the opportunity. Sometimes you have to fight for the opportunity. There's so much life lessons.
I think from today onwards, I'll stretch out and reach to higher levels.